game ball to Lamar and really the whole team backing him up and having his back for his first playoff win. We're just happy for him. It's something that he won't have to talk about in the future.
I wasn't really worried about it. It's just my third year in the league. And I don't really care what people say. I'm just happy we got the win, to move on in the next round.
Max, there's been a lot of question marks surrounding Lamar Jackson. Can he really throw? Is he really an NFL quarterback? Can he handle the pressure? That was something you talked about in the biggest moments. Did he finally silence his critics?
No, but he did, as you mentioned, get the monkey off his back. My criticism of Lamar, my biggest criticism was that, his biggest criticism was not that he couldn't beat good teams or pass the ball. For his age, at age 21, age 22, he passed the ball very well by NFL historical standards, right? Who else at his age passed the ball better? No, and by the way, he beaten plenty of good teams. My criticism was he never beat the teams he had to beat when the light shined brightest. The Ben Roethlisberger Steelers, he lost to 0-1. The Chiefs, you're in the AFC, you got to beat the Chiefs, 0-3. And in the playoffs, he was 0-2, and particularly in the first game, played poorly. And even last year, put up numbers, but was not his normal excellent self. He was a little bit less than that. But when he had to be great, he was great. So in that sense, he showed he can win a playoff game. But Stephen A., the critics will remain, because the criticism is this. A player with Lamar Jackson's style, meaning he's not a pocket passer. He's not going to beat you, with precision passing. He's going to do it with his legs in the moment of truth. That style player can't win a Super Bowl. Stephen A., I don't think that's true. I think he can. But that's going to be the criticism. And until Lamar Jackson makes a deep playoff run, that criticism will remain. As a matter of fact, it was huge that he won that game. But in the history of the NFL, has a guy with that style, no one's like Lamar, right? But a guy with that style ever won a Super Bowl? And until he makes that deep playoff run, that criticism will continue.
You're wrong. And the reason why you're wrong is because all of those questions, they can remain in the perpetuity. It doesn't matter. The bottom line is he was the storyline because he was 0-2 in the postseason and he had played awful. That's the bottom line. Everything that you just said about him, we've always known. You have talked about it ad nauseum. So even you recognize what he brought to the table. But in the end, if he were not 0-2, he would not have been the storyline that he is. The fact of the matter, he's no longer 0-anything in the postseason. He's got his first postseason victory. And even though he didn't necessarily do it with his arms because he only threw for 179 yards, it wasn't a lights-out performance with his arms. It certainly was with his legs. That touchdown run was absolutely sensational, as John Harbaugh pointed out. And we got to give him credit for that. Obviously, he had two other key runs, particularly the last one to go out to basically seal the deal when he rushed for about 33 yards and just sat down on the field and didn't run out of bounds so the clock could continue to run. The guy ended up running for 136 yards for the game. He did this similarly last year in the postseason against Tennessee. There's no surprise because they've got the Baltimore Ravens have the number one running attack in football because of Lamar Jackson. We get all of that. But in the end, Tennessee's a pretty damn good team. And for him to produce the way that he produced, particularly when the defense played the way that they played in shutting down Derrick Henry, in neutralizing or actually re-exposing Ryan Tannehill. You can't say enough about the Ravens and you can't say enough about Lamar Jackson. To know all of that stuff was on his shoulders coming into the game. And for him to answer the call the way that he did, he deserves major props, major credit for it. I'm not saying you're saying otherwise. I am saying this. In the end, when it comes down to the question about silencing his critics, it's about the criticism. The criticism was he did not win come postseason time. That is no longer the case. Now he'll be judged and picked apart like any other quarterback would be. But what won't be the narrative is that the man can't win a playoff game because he did that.
Well, there are at least two criticisms, Stephen A., as you know. One is, can he win a big game? A playoff game, yes, but to me it was just the games he had to win. He did that. That is true. No, right. He did that. That is true. That does get that monkey off his back. It silences that criticism from guys like me. Can he do it? I'm not saying he couldn't, but can he? But Stephen A., you are the one with the criticism about the thrower of the football. You have, as you would say, religiously brought this point up. that for a quarterback, in order for you to really believe in that dude, the Super Bowl capable guy, he has to be a thrower of the football. Now, Lamar Jackson did some very nice things in that game, even as a thrower of the football. The best was when he used his legs to escape pressure, scrambles, and then completes the pass to Mark Andrews, right? That was a pretty pass. That was a pretty play. But until he does that consistently, to the point that Stephen A. Smith isn't bringing this very point up about Lamar Jackson. Can he win a Super Bowl? Can he do this? And Stephen A. is going to be sitting there going, I don't believe in him as a thrower of the football. You see, that is the criticism that he has not silenced.
Well, see, here's where you're wrong. The critics, it pertains to the specific criticism aimed in his direction coming into this weekend's game. I still got questions about him throwing the football. I still don't believe he's going to be able to throw the football as effectively as you need him to beat a Patrick Mahomes. I understand that.
I rest my
point
case.
is, no, you can't rest your case. You can rest your voice because it's not helping you, but you can't rest your case because in the end, what it comes down to is this.
Brother.
If you recall, the criticism was, the man can't win a playoff game. We didn't parse words. We didn't sit up there and pick apart. Well, can he throw the football? Can he do this? Can he do that? Not when it came to the playoff performance. What we said is, by any means necessary, no matter what it is, you being the exceptional athlete that you are, being able to run the football is exceptionally well, more so than better than any quarterback that has ever played, running the football. Can you do that come playoff time? Yesterday, that's exactly what he did. That was the criticism from the critics. You can sit up there and pick apart his game, which we will continue to do throughout his career. But what we cannot say any longer is the man can't win a playoff game. He did it. He did it yesterday. And in that regard, all of us should shut the hell up. Lamar Jackson showed up and handled his business. We can't say he can't win a playoff game anymore.
He certainly did. And a lot of us expected Derrick Henry to be the story, but that was not the case.
Yes,
his longest run,
I did.
8 yards yesterday. Fellas, a whole lot more to get into here on First Take. Brady wins, but why is Stephen A. worried about Tampa Bay? His Super Bowl pick, we'll get into that. And it was a bad day for Russ and the Hawks, sent home by the Rams. Did Seattle make a mistake prioritizing their quarterback? We tackle that as well. First Take, just getting started. Keep it locked.
Check out this one. Long hair.
What cliff, Max? Oh, I forgot. It's a ravine. First Take's in the house. You know what time it is. Let's go.
The Browns are here. Take your best shot tonight.
Nah, I think they're still the same Browns team I play every year.
Just sailed the ball over the head of Big Ben. A touchdown!
Ball over the middle. It's intercepted.
Another turnover. Delivers the ball. He leaps and scores. The Browns lead 27-0 in the first quarter.
Very disappointing. I hate it for our fans. I hate it for my teammates.
Intercepted by Porter Gustin. This is an amazing story.
When it doesn't end the way you want it to, you're always going to feel it's your fault.
We're here for a reason. There's a new standard, and I keep talking about it. No, I wasn't here for the things that have happened in the past, some of which I was too young to even remember. There's a new standard, and we're going to, try and keep it that way.
Miles, a dominant performance like this, what does it say about who you guys are? Who are the Cleveland Browns right now?
We're the Cleveland Browns. Same old Cleveland Browns.
I don't regret what I said. I said the Browns is the Browns. They came out and, they played a hell of a game.
6 playoff games are in the books, plus the national championship game is tonight. ESPN and ABC, Alabama and Ohio State. So much to get into this morning. Good morning, Stephen A. Good morning, Max. I'm Molly Karam Rose. Fellas,
morning.
Let's dive right into it. Stephen A., and we're going to start with that late night game. I know you're cranky, and that's right where I want to go. Because you know what, Stephen A., it really was a tale of 2 seasons for the Cleveland Browns. Dealing with all that COVID adversity, they show up, they show out, and they send your Steelers packing. So I ask you this morning, were you more impressed by Cleveland or are you more depressed by Pittsburgh?
Well, we know the answer to this question. I'm clearly depressed. I got a new show debuting tonight, and I can't even focus on that right now because I'm just completely depressed at what I saw. I expected to be in a very celebratory mood this morning. Looking forward to discussing football all day long, thinking about my Pittsburgh Steelers Nation, the black and gold, the terrible towels, and all of those different things. And I watched the defense go out, greatly assisted by the offense nonetheless, but surrender at the end of the day, 49 points. The first offensive snap of the game for the Pittsburgh Steelers was over the head of what has been Roethlisberger, 6'5", 6'6". Pouncey, a veteran, snaps the ball over his head, and it's a touchdown for the Cleveland Browns. And it just nosedived from there. Big Ben Roethlisberger throwing interceptions all over the place. We see the snap over his head right at that particular moment. They can't even fall on the ball properly. The Cleveland Browns end up falling into the end zone, getting the touchdown. And the Steelers were obviously in a hole. But then what excuse in God's green earth could you possibly have for being down 28-0 in the first quarter? They were getting their butts kicked. It's just that simple. And so as a result of it, it's basically chickens coming home to roost. I told Ryan Clark and others weeks ago, I said I didn't like the way the Steelers were looking. I didn't like the ability without T.J. Watt to get to the quarterback. Obviously, injuries to Devin Bush earlier and then Bud Dupree a little bit later on in the season compromised their ability to get to the quarterback, compromised them in the secondary. We saw all of that. I've continuously lamented the fact that this is the Steelers. As Max Kellerman has pointed out on many occasions with the introductory press conference of Mike Tomlin, his head coach for the Pittsburgh Steelers over 14 years ago, run the ball, stop the run. That was the mantra. Well, somebody forgot to tell the Steelers about that over the last 3 years. They've been one of the worst rushing teams in the National Football League. This year, they were the absolute worst, averaging about 84 yards a game. They didn't even get to 60 last night. Their running game was putrid, and we understand for the most part as to why that was, because when you get in such a hole, you got to spend all your time throwing the football, which Big Ben Roethlisberger did. And in the end, what it comes down to is this. Big Ben Roethlisberger, he's not a scrub. He's still a future Hall of Famer. We get all of that. He did throw for over 500 yards last night. We understand that. But those 4 interceptions speak volumes. There's a reason you mentioned Tom Brady and Drew Brees and Aaron Rodgers and guys like that as being on a different level than Big Ben Roethlisberger. Because with every great moment comes a huge mistake. That's what it is. And his lack of mobility, his age and attrition, and the punishment that he has absorbed, the Steelers got to be looking in a different direction moving forward in the future. I'm just really, really disgusted right now. The Steelers, as far as I'm concerned, have made me depressed. And I'm quite sure I speak on behalf of all Steelers fans when I say that's how we feel.
Well, this playoff wildcard weekend was so exciting, Stephen A., that I've started to lose my voice. So I'm going to have to keep it as even-keeled as I can right now. But let me just say, I was very impressed with the Cleveland Browns. This game was won up front. And this is why I thought Cleveland was going to win. You had a dominant offensive line on one side of the ball with an ascending quarterback who, when he finally had a head coach, a good head coach and some stability, showed you what he could do, which is to be a franchise quarterback. Didn't look that way for a while, but that's what Baker Mayfield is. On the other side of the ball, an offensive line that couldn't block for the run and didn't give Ben Roethlisberger enough time to let those receivers get down the field even. They had to get rid of the ball lightning fast. And a descending quarterback